We will now continue with our algebra. We're talking about multiplication, and included in that is laws of exponents. Welcome back, grade 8. Today we're going to be looking at laws of exponents. This is all to do with multiplication in algebra. Now this is just a recap of yesterday. So we had a to the m times a to the n. When I have powers with the same base, I write down my base and I add my exponent. So that is going to be m plus n. The next thing I want to look at is the distributive law. And we use this quite frequently in algebra. So for example, if I had 3 bracket 4 plus 5, I could work it out like this. 3 multiplied by 5 plus 4 is 9. 3 9s are 27. Right, now distribution is like the pamphlet distributor. 3, 4 plus 5. So the one outside shakes hands with everyone inside. So now, in between here, we have an invisible multiplication sign. So I'm going to say 3 times 4 is 12. I've got plus 3 plus 5. Remember, signs, numbers, letters. So a plus multiplied by plus is plus. 3 times 5 is 15. If I add those two together, I get 27. So the distributive law, this is what we are going to be using in algebra. Then the other one that we need to look at is the associative law. You don't need to know these laws, you just need to know how to apply them. Right, the associative law is you've been doing it without really knowing. So if we have 2a plus 3b minus 3a minus b. The associative law is saying gather like terms. So for example, here is my a, there is my a. So I am going to put together my 2a minus 3a. Now some of you were struggling with this bracket issue. That's why I don't like to add brackets. And then over here, plus 3b minus b. So in the next group, so we're associating plus 3b minus b. And remember, we have an invisible 1 here. So if I've got 2 a's and I take away 3 a's, so I write down the surname, a, 2 minus 3. So if I've got 2 and I minus 3, I'm going to get to negative 1a. If I look at this bracket, I've got the family of b's, and if I've got 3 minus 1, I'm going to have positive 2b. So you were using the associative law. The other law, let me just make space here. Okay, the other law is the commutative. Law. And this only works when we have multiplication and or addition. So for example, I can have 3 times 4 times 2. I can say 3 times 4 is 12 times 2 is 24. Or I can say 3 times 4 times 2. I will still get to 24. Or I could say 3 times 2 times 4, and I will still get to 24. So the commutative, and the same applies to, so if I have 3 plus 2 plus 8, I can go 3 plus 8 is 11, 11 and 2 is 13. Or I can go 2 plus 8 is 10, and then add 3, which is 13. And that only works with addition and multiplication. Right, let's have a look at our examples for today. Right, now you're going to see why I was so insistent on doing signs, numbers, letters. Laws of exponents only work with multiplication and or division. Right, so my operation, first thing I do is I circle my terms. That is one term. So as soon as I have one term, I'm going to go signs, numbers, letters. Right, I have a negative multiplied by a positive, so my result is going to be negative. Signs done. Then I do my numbers. 5 times 3 is 15, and I only have a P. Right, there are rules in your book. When simplifying terms, here we go. Signs, numbers, variables. And you have to go, remember when we did the signs, a negative multiplied by a positive result is negative. Then we go numbers, and then there's only one P. Let's look at the next example. Right, we look for a positive or a negative. This is a negative, but it's actually a whole term. That's a negative, but it's a whole term. So in actual fact, I only have one term. And remember this morning when we did our mind map, we had one term, and here we had more than one term. So this is to do with multiplication and or division. Right, so my operation is multiplication. So then I must remember to do signs, numbers, letters, or variables. Right, so now the only thing I'm going to look at, so here no sign is a positive, a negative, a negative. And remember, a negative multiplied by a negative gave us a positive. So we know the result here is going to be positive. I've done my signs. Now I'm going to look at my numbers. I've got 3 times 2 times 5. So 3 2s are 6, 6 5s are, 6 5s are 30. So now I have 30. Now I look at my variables. Now remember laws of exponents. When I have variables, I can put the whole lot together. It's like putting everything in a blender. It's not addition and subtraction. I can put it in the blender. Remember the blender blades look like this. They are sharp. Okay, I can put it all in the blender and I come out with one big fat mishmash. So the first thing I do when multiplying powers by the same base, I write down my base, which is an M. Over here, I have 2 M's multiplied together. Here I have 1, and there I have 3. So now I'm going to add my exponents. I'm just rubbing out so we can see more clearly. So if I have a look at my M terms, I've got 2 plus over here is 1 plus over here is 3. Okay, now I'm done with the M's. Now I'm going to look at the N's. I've got an N term, an N term, and an N term there. So what I do is I write down my base, which is N, and I've got 3 there. So I'm going to say 3 plus, I've got 2 there, and no exponent, it means it's 1, so it's going to be plus 1. Now this step you don't have to do in your books. Okay, it was just so that I can show you what we are doing. So positive, we don't write you're 14 years old, we just say 14, so we don't need to write the positive. So that is 30 M, 2 plus 1 is 3, 3 plus 3 is 6, N, 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 1 is 6. So that is my answer. Right, there's a little explanation in your book for you. Let's do this one. Now we're going to do distribution. I need you to remember the one outside comes in and shakes hands with everybody inside the room. So when Mr. X Team comes to visit us, he greets everybody in the room. So this is going to greet everybody inside the brackets. Right. So again, I'm looking at that, and I'm going to do signs, numbers, letters. Positive times a positive is positive. This is a 1a. 2 times 1 is 2. I'm multiplying powers with the same base. A, 1 plus 2 is 3. Now I'm done with that term. So now the one outside shakes hands with everyone inside. So that multiplied by that. Signs, positive times positive is positive. 2 times 3 is 6, and I've only got an a there, so my answer is 2a cubed plus 6a. How many terms do I have? Well, I have 2 terms, but they are not like terms, so that would be my answer. Right, let's look at number 4. They get progressively more difficult. So the one outside, this is called distribution. When you have this lonely little soldier outside and you have this whole group of terms inside. So we are going to take 3q and we're going to multiply it by 2q squared. Signs, numbers, letters. So they're both pluses, so my answer is going to be plus. Then I do numbers. 3 times 2 is 6. I write down my base, which is q. I've got a 1 there and a 2. When I multiply powers by the same base, I write down my base and say 1 plus 2 is 3. Now I'm done with that. Now I'm going to do the next one, which is these two. Signs, numbers, letters. A positive multiplied by a negative will give me negative. 3 times 1 is 3. I write down my q and I say there's 1 there and 1 there. 1 plus 1 is 2. I'm done with that one. Now I'm going to do the last. If I've got 3 terms in the bracket, I must have 3 terms in my answer. So now I go 3q multiplied by positive 6. Signs. Okay, so a positive multiplied by a positive is positive. 3 times 6 is 18, and all I have is 1q. Right, I inspect my answer to see that there are no like terms. That is one term, that is one term, that is one term. None of them are like terms because this is q cubed, q squared, and q. So that is my answer to that simplification. Right, I want you to go and try your test your understanding. I'm going to do a video on that to explain that.